I grew up in North Carolina, small town, Lincoln, North Carolina, which is a little place between Gastonia and Hickory. If you put a pin right on the map there on 321, that's where we are. Most people aren't real familiar with Lincoln because it's just a little small cow town. But so that's where I grew up. I've always been interested in medicine per se, science and that sort of thing. I mean, even whenever I was in 4th grade, I drew a picture of an eyeball in 4th grade that had the parts like the iris and the lens and all the parts of the eyeball, and had that up on my wall. So for several years I wanted to be an ophthalmologist, and my parents were wonderful. They were not college educated. In fact, I was the first person on the Beaver side of the family to graduate from college, so it's a very proud moment for my grandparents in particular, my Mama and Papa Beaver, sort of what I call them affectionately. But I wanted to be a physician, and so when I was in college, I actually worked in an emergency room as an ER tech or an orderly, and I loved that. That was a fantastic job, and that was whenever I was at the University of North Carolina, and I started working that graveyard shift, and it was me, a nurse, and a doctor. So there was just 3 of us, and the doctor that worked there, there was 2 or 3 of them, but there was one in particular that kind of took me under his wing, and he was very, very helpful, very supportive of me. It was kind of I guess it was a fragile point in my life because I'd kind of gotten the wind taken out of my sails a little bit because I'd diverted from my original quest to go on to the Coast Guard Academy and fly helicopters, was what I was thinking at that point, which was a diversion from medicine too. We all meander a bit, don't we? Yeah. So, but he was very, very helpful. He encouraged me to be a doctor. He was like, I think you have the brains to do it. I think you have the people skills to do it. I think that you would make a good doctor. So he encouraged me to go on and do that, and that's why I really got interested. And he used to pull me aside and show me stuff on x-rays and ask me questions about patients. I mean, he would know the answer, but he would take time to teach me, and I really appreciated that. And just working in that small little group was a very good experience too, with just me, the nurse, and the doctor, from 11 to 7, and you can imagine the stuff we saw in the middle of the night. Yeah. It was at that point that most of the young doctors that were coming through the ER were saying, "Don't be a doctor, don't do it. Insurance has ruined us. We should be an accountant." I did not want to be an accountant. So I thought I wanted to be an ER physician, but I was also a cheerleader at the University of North Carolina at the time, and during one of our practices, which was actually on a Friday afternoon, we were doing basket tosses, or a circus stunt basically, and we threw a girl up, and she came down and it busted out my front tooth, and I had to get on an airplane that afternoon and fly down to see my girlfriend at the time. Had to meet her parents for the first time. So I show up in Jacksonville, Florida with half a tooth, saying, "Hey, I'm Zan Beaver, I'm dating your daughter, and I'm from North Carolina with half a tooth." So it was a very embarrassing weekend for me. I went out and met all her friends from high school. Luckily, I ended up marrying her. She's my wife now, so we made it through that. I had to go all weekend because we couldn't get into a dentist, but on Monday I came back, and my mother was able to get me into a dentist in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and he fixed my tooth, and I thought it was magic. I really felt like this is incredible. It was so impressive to me that I decided at that point, when he fixed my tooth in about an hour and a half, that this is what I wanted to do, because it was so dramatic, and I realized how big of a difference it made in my life. And I thought, well, maybe I don't want to be an ER doctor. I want to work on teeth. I mean, this guy was bouncing off the walls happy. He was working 4 days a week, which I still haven't figured out how to do that, but it just seemed to be everything that I wanted. It incorporated working with people and helping people. It was a very positive thing to be doing, but it also incorporated the medical side of it as well. So that is the beginnings of my quest to go on to dental school and become a dentist. My most memorable case, I think by far, was a young lady. Her name is Nancy, and Nancy's been with my practice for a long time. I mean, almost as long as I've been practicing. So Nancy, when she was in 8th grade, I think it was 8th grade, she had an accident in gym class, and I think she said she was doing push-ups and somebody jumped on her back, but she slammed her face into the floor and it busted out her front tooth. Now, Nancy is a beautiful young lady. She's really, really attractive, and but she had lived with, at least at that point, she had to wear what we call a thumb plate or a flipper, which is something that snaps in, and that works. But the reason you have to do that when they're younger is because their head's still developing, and anyway, so she had to wear that for a while, but then she got an implant, which is great. Implants are wonderful. But this was 20 years ago when she had it done, so we were still, and we're still getting better at it, but implants were not in their infancy, but we were still learning the aesthetics. So she had an implant placed, and then she had a crown put on, but it wasn't very aesthetic. And so when I met her, she had this implant crown, and the implant and sort of a defect in the front, and here was this beautiful young lady who has a perfect smile, and then she had this one tooth that just didn't quite look right. So it didn't go with the whole package of who she is. So we changed that implant crown out, we changed out part of the implant system, and we were able to make up for the defect that was there and make it, as far as I'm concerned, we made it perfect. And I think she feels the same way too. And it really, you know, it was one of those cases where when it's finished, and you know, I showed her the mirror, that she was almost in tears, and I had a big lump in my throat, and she stood up and hugged me. You know, like, I mean, I'm kind of getting a little, but I mean, those again, that's the reason that I'm a dentist. It's those, and that doesn't happen every day, for sure, but it happens enough. It's like playing golf. You know, you go out, I'm not a very good golfer, but when you go out and you play 9 holes bad, but then on the 10th hole you hit that one great shot, and that keeps you coming back. And so you know, I think the big thing is that I love people. I love seeing lots of different kinds of people. I love the personalities, and sometimes people come into the practice and they're grumpy. You know, nobody wants to be at the dentist typically, unless they're getting their teeth cleaned. You know, that's always fun, you know, to get your teeth cleaned. But if they've got anything going on, then they really don't want to see me. In fact, it was probably one of the hardest things for me to get over earlier in my career, is that when they're on my end of the building, I always say, that means that we're doing some kind of dentistry. They're typically not real excited to be there. So, but the things that I enjoy about that is, you know, I help people maintain their health, maintain their self-esteem. I get to the enjoyment of knowing lots and lots of people. I mean, thousands of people. In fact, most of the news that I get through, I cannot watch TV for 2 or 3 weeks and keep up with the news just from talking to the people that come through my practice. And I enjoy doing the cosmetic part of it, because when we do smile makeovers, those are truly life-changing. I mean, we really love seeing, or I love, after we've done a smile makeover with somebody, when they come back in to get their teeth cleaned, I love hearing the stories that people tell me. You know, hey, I got engaged, or I got that job, or so many people compliment me on my teeth. In fact, we had a girl that just recently we did a veneer case, large veneer case. She came in, she had old veneers that were kind of getting dated and chipped up and just didn't look very good. We redid all that. But she came in and she told me she had just recently been to a business meeting, and she's kind of shy, but really pretty girl. And she told me that she was talking at a business conference, and when she walked away, and she's single too, but when she walked away, she overheard the 2 men that she was talking to. One man said to the other man, "Boy, she has a really pretty smile, doesn't she?" And you know, I know that made her happy, but she has no idea how good that makes me feel. And it's those things that make me feel good. You know, I love when a person comes in and it's emergency. You know, if we can get somebody out of pain. I mean, I just had a kid recently that had fallen off of his skateboard and busted his front tooth, and that's a relatively common, especially young boys. I'd say boys between the ages of 6 and 16. That's the age where they're busting their teeth up. Boys are rough, you know, it's not typically little girls. But whenever I put, and that's exactly why I became a dentist, is because I had the same thing. I had an accident where I broke a front tooth, and the dentist just put a big filling in there and fixed it. It's like magic. So those are the things that really keep me excited in the morning. The other thing that I really love about dentistry, or at least my practice, or the practice that I work in, are the gals that I work with. I mean, they are just phenomenal. I've been so truly blessed to have a group of gals that are not just great at what they do, but they love the people that come into the practice, and we're just like a big family.